I am Maya Chen, 35 years old. For 7 years, I worked 3 jobs to pay for my younger sister's medical degree while our mother watched from the sidelines, reminding me daily that it was my duty as the eldest daughter to sacrifice everything for Lily's future. But the worst humiliation didn't come from the exhaustion, or the missed opportunities, or the relationships I lost, because I had no time for anything except work and paying Lily's tuition. It came on her graduation day, right in the middle of the reception hall filled with 200 guests, colleagues, professors, and family friends, when Lily stood at the microphone during her valedictorian speech and said, "I want to thank the person who made all of this possible, my mother, who worked tirelessly to ensure I had every opportunity to succeed." The applause was deafening. Our mother stood up, tears streaming down her face, accepting congratulations from everyone around her. Lily looked directly at me from that stage, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not gratitude, not guilt, something colder. She had no idea that the exhausted sister she just erased from her success story was holding the original loan documents, the bank statements, the receipts for every single tuition payment, every textbook, every rent check for her apartment near the university. Documents that proved I had paid for everything, not our mother. And in exactly 48 hours, Lily would need my signature on a critical affidavit to secure her position at Johns Hopkins Hospital, the most prestigious residency program in the country. I was the only person who could give her that future or take it away. The reception hall smelled of expensive catering, white lilies, and champagne that cost more per bottle than I made in a day at any of my jobs. I stood in the back corner near the kitchen service entrance, wearing a dress I had bought at a thrift store 3 years ago, watching my sister move through the crowd like a celebrity. She wore a designer gown, cream-colored silk that probably cost $3,000. Our mother had bought it for her as a graduation gift, using money from her second husband's account. Tom was a retired executive who had married our mother 2 years ago, and his wealth had transformed her from a struggling single parent into someone who hosted charity luncheons and played tennis at the country club. Lily's graduation cap sat on the head table, decorated with gold tassels and the words "Johns Hopkins or Bust" written in glitter. She had been accepted to their internal medicine program with full funding, a position that only 12 graduates in the entire country received each year. It was the golden ticket, the launchpad for a career that would make her one of the most respected physicians in her field. She just needed one small administrative detail handled: an affidavit confirming that she had no outstanding debts or financial obligations that would interfere with her residency contract. I had paid for everything in my name because Lily had no credit at 18 when she started university. Every student loan, every credit card for textbooks and supplies, every apartment lease, all in my name, all my legal responsibility. The affidavit required my signature to confirm that all debts were settled and that Lily had no financial entanglements that would complicate her employment. Without it, Johns Hopkins would revoke her acceptance. Their legal department had already sent 3 emails requesting the document. The deadline was in 48 hours. Lily approached me finally, after an hour of working the room. She looked radiant, her dark hair swept up in an elegant twist, her makeup professionally done. She held a champagne flute in one hand and her phone in the other. "Maya," she said, her voice bright and cheerful. "There you are. I've been looking for you." I nodded. "Congratulations, Lily. You worked hard for this." She beamed. "Thank you. It's been such an incredible journey. I honestly can't believe it's real." She glanced at her phone. "Listen, I need to talk to you about something. Can we step outside for a minute?" We walked through the service corridor and out onto the back terrace. The June evening was warm, the sun just starting to set. The sounds of the party faded behind the heavy doors. Lily turned to face me, and the brightness in her expression shifted into something more businesslike. "I need you to sign the Johns Hopkins affidavit," she said. "They've been emailing me constantly, and they need it by Friday morning." I looked at her carefully. The affidavit that says you have no outstanding debts. Right, she nodded. It's just a formality, standard procedure. But you do have outstanding debts, I said quietly. I still owe $43,000 on your student loans, plus the credit card balances from your textbooks and equipment. That's another $8,000. Lily waved her hand dismissively. Those are in your name, Maya, not mine. Legally, they're your debts, not mine. So the affidavit is accurate. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Lily, I took those loans out for you. I worked 3 jobs for 7 years to make the payments. You know this. She sighed, and for the first time, I heard impatience in her voice. And I'm grateful, obviously. But that was your choice. Nobody forced you to do that. You wanted to help me, and I appreciate it. But that doesn't change the legal reality. The debts are yours. I stared at her. So, you want me to sign a document saying you have no financial obligations while I'm still paying off $51,000 in debt that I only took on because you needed it for medical school? It's not that complicated. Maya, Lily's voice had an edge now. I'm asking you to do one simple thing, sign a piece of paper, that's it. And then I can start my residency and build my career. And eventually, I'll be in a position to help you out financially if you need it. If I need it, I repeated softly. Lily checked her phone again. I have to get back inside. People are waiting for me. Just sign the affidavit and email it to the Johns Hopkins legal department by Friday morning. The details are in the email I forwarded you last week. She turned and walked back into the reception hall, the door closing behind her with a soft click. I stood on the terrace alone, listening to the muffled sounds of celebration on the other side of the wall. The sun had dropped below the horizon, and the air was cooling. I pulled out my phone and opened my email. The message from Johns Hopkins was there, sent 2 weeks ago. I had read it a dozen times. Standard affidavit, standard procedure, standard deadline. I scrolled further down and found another email, one I had saved in a special folder. It was from 3 days ago, from a law firm I had consulted quietly, without telling anyone. The subject line read, Your inquiry about debt assignment and financial contracts. I had asked them a simple question. If someone takes on debt specifically for another person's benefit, with clear documentation and intent, and that person refuses to acknowledge or repay the debt, what legal options exist? The lawyer's response had been thorough. In cases where one party assumes financial obligations for another, with the understanding that it constitutes a loan or financial support agreement, particularly when there is documentation of the arrangement, the creditor party may pursue legal action for repayment. However, without a formal written loan agreement signed by both parties, the case becomes more complex and may require demonstrating the intent and understanding through other evidence such as communications, bank records, and witness testimony. The lawyer had included a fee schedule for representation. I hadn't responded yet, but I had been thinking about it every day since. If you are watching this and you have ever been the person who gave everything, who sacrificed your own dreams and your own future to lift someone else up, only to be erased from their story when they finally made it, I need you to know that your pain is real. Please hit that like button right now if you have ever felt invisible in someone else's success. And in the comments, I want you to write just 2 words, I existed. Let's create a wall of validation for everyone who has ever been the foundation that nobody thanked. I drove home that night in my 12-year-old Honda Civic, the one with the broken air conditioning and the passenger door that didn't lock properly. The drive from the reception hall to my apartment took 40 minutes, through parts of the city that gentrified around me while I stayed locked in the same financial position year after year. My apartment was a studio in a building that had been slated for renovation 3 times, but never got the funding. The hallway smelled like old carpet and someone's dinner, probably Mrs. Rivera on the 2nd floor, who cooked elaborate meals every Saturday night. I unlocked my door and stepped into the space that had been my entire world for the past 7 years. 400 square feet, a kitchen area with a hot plate and a mini fridge because the stove didn't work. a bathroom with tiles that were probably installed in 1987, a mattress on the floor because I had sold my bed frame 4 years ago when I needed extra money for Lily's organic chemistry textbook bundle. The walls were bare except for a calendar where I tracked my work shifts and payment due dates. I sat down on the mattress and opened my laptop, balancing it on my knees. The folder I needed was labeled Lilly Medical School, and it contained 7 years of meticulous documentation. I had kept every bank statement showing withdrawals for tuition payments, every receipt for textbooks purchased, every lease agreement I had signed for her apartments near campus, every email and text message where Lily had asked for money and I had confirmed I would send it, every thank you message she had sent in the early years, before the thank yous stopped coming. I opened a subfolder labeled Loans and looked at the current balances. Student loan account 1, 23,447.82 remaining. Student loan account 2, $19,851.23 remaining. Credit card, education expenses, $8,234.15 remaining. Total, $51,233.20. The monthly payments across all three accounts totaled $1,847. My income for my three jobs, after taxes, averaged $3,200 per month. After paying the debt, I had $350 for rent, utilities, food, transportation, and everything else. My rent was $950. That left $403 for the rest of my life. I had been living like this for 7 years. I opened another document, one I had created 2 years ago, when I first started to feel the weight of resentment building in my chest. It was a spreadsheet calculating the total amount I had paid toward Lily's education. Tuition payments over 4 years of undergraduate and 4 years of medical school, $187. Rent and living expenses, $84. Textbooks, equipment, supplies, $31,000. Travel expenses for mandatory clinical rotations, $12,000. Emergency funds for unexpected costs, $19,000. Total invested, $333,000. The number sat there on my screen, glowing in the dim light of my apartment. $1,300,000. Money I had earned working as a night shift warehouse manager, a weekend restaurant server, and a freelance bookkeeper for small businesses. 60 to 70 hours per week, every week for 7 years? No vacations. No sick days unless I was physically unable to stand. No social life because I was always working. I had been 28 years old when Lily started undergraduate. I had just been promoted to a management position at a marketing firm, making decent money with room to grow. I had been dating someone seriously, a software engineer named Daniel, who had started talking about moving in together. I had been saving for a down payment on a condo, and then Lily had gotten her acceptance letter to Northwestern University, and our mother had called me into the living room for a family meeting. I remembered that conversation with painful clarity. My mother had sat in her chair, the good one by the window, with Lily beside her on the couch. I had stood in the doorway, still wearing my work clothes. "Maya, we need to talk about Lily's education," our mother had said. Her voice had been serious, the tone she used when something was non-negotiable. "She's been accepted to Northwestern, which is a tremendous opportunity, but the financial aid package isn't enough. We're going to need help covering the costs." I had looked at Lily, who was 18 then, bright-eyed and excited. "What about student loans?" I had asked. "She can take out loans in her name and pay them back after she graduates." "Absolutely not," our mother had said sharply. "I will not allow Lily to start her career buried in debt. That's not fair to her. She has a gift, Maya. She's going to be a doctor. We can't let money get in the way of that." "But I'm saving for a condo," I had said. "I finally have a chance to build something for myself." My mother's expression had hardened. "Lily is your sister. Family takes care of family. Your father died when you were 12, and Lily was only 2. I raised both of you alone, working terrible jobs, living in terrible apartments, sacrificing everything so you could have opportunities. I gave up my entire youth for you girls. And now it's your turn to step up." The guilt had hit me like a physical blow. My mother was right that she had worked hard, had struggled, had sacrificed. After my father died in a construction accident, she had worked double shifts at a nursing home to keep us fed and housed. "I'm not asking you to pay for everything," my mother had continued. "Just help with what the loans and financial aid don't cover. It won't be that much. And Lily is going to be so successful, Maya. She's going to make something of herself. Don't you want that for your sister?" I had looked at Lily again. She had been staring at me with those wide, dark eyes, hopeful and trusting. My baby sister. The one I used to walk to school when she was small. The one I helped with homework. The one who drew me pictures and taped them to my bedroom door. "Okay," I had said. "I'll help." That decision had cost me everything. Within 6 months, Daniel had ended our relationship because I was never available, always working, always exhausted. Within a year, I had used my entire condo down payment fund to cover Lily's first-year expenses. Within 2 years, I had quit my marketing job because the hours weren't flexible enough to accommodate 2 additional part-time jobs. I had stopped being Maya Chen, the person with dreams and goals and a future. I had become Maya Chen, Lily's sponsor, Lily's ATM, Lily's invisible foundation. I closed my laptop and lay back on the mattress, staring at the water-stained ceiling. My mind drifted back to the moment when everything had truly crystallized, when I had realized exactly how my mother and Lily saw me. It had been 3 years ago, during the winter holidays. Lily had been home from medical school for 2 weeks, and our mother had insisted on hosting Christmas dinner at her house, the nice house she now shared with Tom in the suburbs. The dining room had been decorated beautifully, with a real tree and expensive ornaments and candles that smelled like pine and cinnamon. Tom's adult children from his first marriage had been there, along with some of their friends and our mother's new social circle. 12 people around a table that probably cost more than my annual income. Our mother had insisted we exchange gifts after dinner. Everyone had gathered in the living room, and the presents had been piled under the tree, wrapped in matching silver and gold paper. Our mother had played Santa, distributing gifts with theatrical flair. Tom's daughter received a leather handbag. Tom's son received a Tag Heuer watch. Our mother's friend Barbara received a cashmere scarf. And then our mother had handed Lily a large box, beautifully wrapped with an elaborate bow. "For my brilliant daughter," she had announced, "the future Dr. Chen." Lily had opened it carefully, and I had watched her face light up as she pulled out a MacBook Pro, the latest model, with all the upgrades. "For your research and your clinical notes," our mother had said. Only the best for my girl. The laptop had been worth at least $2,500, maybe $3,000 with the upgrades. Everyone had applauded. Lily had hugged our mother, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Mom. This is perfect. I love it so much." Then our mother had handed me a small package, barely larger than a deck of cards. The paper had been different. Not the expensive silver and gold, but leftover wrapping from something else, with visible tape marks. I had opened it and found a Starbucks gift card. $25. "For your coffee," our mother had said cheerfully. "I know you love coffee." The room had been silent for a beat too long. I had seen Tom's daughter glance at her brother. I had seen Barbara look away. And I had seen Lily stare at me, her new laptop still in her lap, waiting to see what I would do. "Thank you," I had managed to say. My voice had sounded hollow, even to my own ears. "That's very thoughtful." I had excused myself to the bathroom a few minutes later, walking down the hallway to the guest washroom that was bigger than my entire studio apartment. I had locked the door and stood in front of the mirror, looking at my reflection under the soft lighting. I had lost weight that year, stress, and too much work, and not enough money for proper food. My face had looked gaunt, older than 28. I had been wearing a sweater I had bought at Target 4 years earlier, with a small hole under the left arm that I had sewn up carefully so it wouldn't show. I had stood there for a long time, just breathing, trying to hold myself together. The numbers had run through my head automatically. In the 3 years since Lily had started college, I had paid $124,000 toward her education. And on this Christmas, the public acknowledgement of my contribution to the family had been valued at $25. When I had returned to the living room, everyone had moved on to dessert. Nobody had mentioned the disparity. Nobody had said anything. Later that evening, when I had been getting ready to leave, I had found Lily in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher. "Hey," I had said quietly, "can I talk to you for a minute?" She had looked up, smiling. "Sure, what's up?" "The gifts today." I had started, then stopped, unsure how to phrase it. I just, I noticed there was a big difference between what everyone else received and what I got. Lily had laughed, actually laughed. "Oh my God, Maya, are you seriously upset about Christmas presents? We're not children." "It's not about the gift," I had said. "It's about what it represents. I've been paying for your education for 3 years. I've given you everything I have. And your Christmas present was a $3,000 laptop, while I got a $25 gift card." Lily had closed the dishwasher and turned to face me fully. Her expression had shifted from amused to annoyed. "Okay. First of all, that's a really ugly thing to say. You sound entitled and petty. Second, Mom bought me the laptop because I need it for school. It's an investment in my education. You getting upset about it is honestly kind of selfish." "Selfish?" I had repeated. "Yes, selfish." Lily had crossed her arms. "You act like you're this martyr, working so hard, suffering so much. But nobody forced you to pay for my school, Maya. You offered. You said you wanted to help. And now you're throwing it in my face every chance you get." "I've never thrown it in your face," I had said. "This is the first time I've said anything." "You don't have to say it out loud. I can feel it. The resentment, the judgment. Every time we talk, you manage to mention how hard you're working or how much you've sacrificed. It's exhausting." I had felt tears stinging my eyes. "I'm sorry that my exhaustion is exhausting to you." Lily had sighed dramatically. "Look, I appreciate what you've done, I really do. But you need to stop keeping score. If you didn't want to help me, you should have said no from the beginning. But you said yes, so now you need to own that decision and stop making me feel guilty about it." She had left the kitchen then, walking back to the living room, where everyone else was laughing at something Tom had said. I had stood there alone, next to the sink full of expensive dishes, and felt something inside me break. It had been a clean break, precise and permanent. The part of me that believed my family would eventually recognize my sacrifice and appreciate it. The part of me that thought Lily would grow up and see what I had given up for her. That part died that night, quietly, in my mother's kitchen, next to a $25 gift card for coffee I couldn't afford anyway. If you have ever had someone tell you that you're selfish for feeling hurt, that you're keeping score for remembering the sacrifices you made, I need you to know that remembering is not the same as weaponizing. Hit that like button if you have ever been called petty for expecting basic appreciation. And in the comments, tell me, what was the moment you realized they didn't see you at all? The morning after Lily's graduation, I woke up at 5:30 from habit, even though I didn't have a shift that day. My body was programmed to the schedule. I made instant coffee, the cheap kind that tasted like burnt plastic, but had enough caffeine to function. I opened my laptop and stared at the email from Johns Hopkins again. The affidavit was a simple document, 2 pages, standard legal language. Section 3B was the critical part. The undersigned confirms that the applicant has no outstanding financial obligations, debts, or legal entanglements that would interfere with their ability to fulfill the requirements of this residency program. I was the undersigned, the person whose signature would make that statement legally binding. If I signed it, I would be confirming that Lily had no debts, while I sat here with $51,000 of her education costs still on my accounts. If I didn't sign it, Johns Hopkins would investigate. They would contact me directly to ask about the outstanding loans. I would have to tell them the truth, and Lily's acceptance would be revoked. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "Did you sign the affidavit yet? Need it ASAP? Hopkins is getting pushy." I didn't respond. Another text came through 5 minutes later. "Maya, I know you're up. You're always up early. Please just sign it and send it so I can move forward." I turned off my phone. I needed to think clearly, and Lily's messages were static in my head. I pulled out a notebook, one of the cheap ones I bought in bulk from the dollar store, and started writing. Not because I thought writing would solve anything, but because I needed to see the situation mapped out in front of me, objective and clear. Option 1. Sign the affidavit. Lily gets her residency. I continue paying off her debts for the next 6 years. Our family dynamic continues exactly as it has been. I remain invisible. Option 2. Don't sign the affidavit. Lily's acceptance is revoked. I keep my integrity but destroy my sister's career. Our family will hate me forever. I will be the villain in every story they tell. Option 3. Use the affidavit as leverage to negotiate repayment. Risk permanently damaging the relationship. Possibly still end up in court. Possibly still be seen as the villain. I stared at the options for a long time. The morning light was coming through my single window, the one that faced the alley behind the building. I could hear the city waking up, garbage trucks and early commuters, and someone's radio playing pop music too loudly. My phone buzzed again. I turned it back on. 17 messages from Lily, increasingly frantic. 3 missed calls from my mother. And 1 email from Johns Hopkins, marked urgent, saying they had not yet received the required affidavit, and warning that any delay beyond the Friday deadline would result in automatic forfeiture of the residency position. I made a decision. I replied to the Johns Hopkins email. I am in receipt of your request for the affidavit regarding Lily Chen. Before I can provide this document, I need to schedule a call with your legal department to discuss the accuracy of the statements I would be confirming. Please advise on availability. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was Lily. I answered. "What the hell are you doing?" Her voice was sharp, panicked. "Why did you email Hopkins Legal?" "Because they're asking me to confirm something that isn't true," I said calmly. "I'm not going to commit perjury on a legal document." "Perjury? Are you insane? It's a standard affidavit. Everyone signs these. It's not a big deal." "It's a big deal to me. I'm being asked to state that you have no financial obligations when I'm currently paying $51,000 in debt that was incurred for your education." Lily's voice rose. "Those debts are in your name, Maya, not mine. How many times do I have to explain this to you? The debts are in my name because you had no credit history when you started school. We both know that. I took them on for you, with the understanding that it was an investment in your education." "You never said it was a loan," Lily shot back. "You said you wanted to help me. You said family takes care of family. You never once asked me to sign anything or agree to pay you back." She was right. I hadn't. Because 7 years ago, I hadn't imagined needing a contract with my own sister. "I'm not asking you to pay me back," I said carefully. "I'm asking you to acknowledge the debt exists, to take responsibility for it, and then we can work out a reasonable repayment plan after you finish your residency and start making attending physician salary." "I'm not doing that," Lily said flatly. "I'm not taking on debt that legally isn't mine. And I'm not letting you sabotage my career because you're bitter about choices you made." "Choices I made," I repeated. "Yes. Nobody put a gun to your head, Maya. You could have said no at any point, but you didn't, because you wanted to be the hero. You wanted to be the martyr. And now you're mad that I didn't fall at your feet in gratitude." I felt something cold and clear settle into my chest. "Sign the affidavit by Friday, or I'm telling Hopkins the truth." Lily was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. "If you do this, Mom will never forgive you. I will never forgive you. You will be completely alone." "Then I guess I'll be alone," I said, and ended the call. That afternoon, I received a call from my mother. I let it go to voicemail. She left a message, her voice tight with fury. "Maya, I don't know what you think you're doing, but you need to sign that affidavit immediately. Lily is devastated. You are jeopardizing her entire future over some petty jealousy. This is not who I raised you to be. Call me back right now." I didn't call her back. Instead, I called the law firm I had contacted weeks earlier. The lawyer who had sent me the initial consultation email was named Rebecca Torres. Her assistant put me through after a brief hold. "Ms. Chen," Rebecca said. Her voice was professional, measured. "I've been expecting your call. What can I do for you?" I explained the situation in detail: the 7 years of payments, the total amount invested, the graduation speech where I was erased, the affidavit request, the conversation with Lily where she refused to acknowledge the debt. Rebecca listened without interrupting. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Ms. Chen, I want to be very clear with you about what you're facing here. Without a written loan agreement signed by your sister, this is going to be extremely difficult to win in court. You would need to prove that there was an implied contract, that your sister understood you were loaning her money with the expectation of repayment. I have 7 years of text messages and emails where she thanks me for the money, where she asks for specific amounts, and I confirm I'm sending them. Doesn't that prove she understood the arrangement? It proves she received financial support from you. It doesn't necessarily prove she understood it as a loan rather than a gift. A good defense attorney would argue that within families, financial support is typically given as a gift unless explicitly stated otherwise." I closed my eyes. "So I have no recourse?" "I didn't say that. I said it would be difficult. But here's what I'm thinking. You have leverage right now that you won't have in 2 weeks. Your sister needs your signature on that affidavit. If you refuse to sign it, her residency is gone. That's significant power. You're saying I should use it. I'm saying you should be strategic. Right now, your sister is motivated to negotiate because the stakes are immediate and concrete. Once she has that residency secured, her motivation to address this debt disappears entirely. So if you want any chance of recovering your money, or even getting acknowledgement of what you're owed, now is the time to act. What would you recommend?" Rebecca paused. "Let me draft a proposal, a formal debt acknowledgement and repayment agreement. Nothing aggressive, just a clear statement that your sister acknowledges receiving the financial support, agrees that it constitutes a debt, and commits to a reasonable repayment schedule starting after she completes her residency. If she signs it, you sign the affidavit. If she refuses, you don't sign. And we're prepared to explain to Johns Hopkins why you can't certify that she has no debts. And if she takes me to court? For what? She can't compel you to sign the affidavit. It requires your voluntary attestation. If you believe the statement would be false, you have every right to refuse." I felt something shift in my chest. Not revenge, not anger, just clarity. "Draft the proposal," I said. "Send it to me by tomorrow morning." The proposal arrived in my inbox at 8 a.m. the next day. It was 3 pages, professionally formatted, legally precise. The key section read, "Lily Chen acknowledges receiving financial support from Maya Chen, totaling approximately $333 for educational expenses between 2018 and 2025. Lily Chen agrees that this support constitutes a debt owed to Maya Chen. Lily Chen commits to repaying this debt according to the following schedule. No payments required during residency period. Beginning 1 year after completion of residency, monthly payments of $2,500 until debt is fully repaid. Both parties agree this arrangement is fair, reasonable, and binding." Below that was a section for both signatures, dated and witnessed. I read it 3 times, checking every word. Rebecca had included a cover letter with strategic advice. "Send this to your sister with a simple message. No accusations, no emotion, just facts. Tell her you've consulted a lawyer, that you need this agreement signed before you can sign the affidavit, and that you believe this is a fair solution that protects both of you. Give her 24 hours to respond. Do not engage in arguments or negotiations via text or phone. All communication should be in writing from this point forward." I forwarded the proposal to Lily at 9 a.m. with a brief message. "Lily, I've consulted with an attorney about the affidavit situation. I'm not comfortable signing a legal document that states you have no debts when I'm currently responsible for $51,033.20 in loans taken for your education, plus the additional $281,766.80 I paid directly over the past 7 years. I'm attaching a debt acknowledgement agreement that I believe is fair and reasonable. If you sign this, I will immediately sign the Hopkins affidavit. You have 24 hours to respond. Best, Maya. I turned off my phone after sending it. I couldn't handle watching Lily read it. Couldn't handle the immediate response I knew would come. I went to work at the warehouse, my overnight shift from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., moving boxes and managing inventory and trying not to think about what was happening. When I got home Friday morning, exhausted and sore, I turned my phone back on. 83 messages. 47 from Lily, 21 from my mother, 15 from numbers I didn't recognize, probably my mother's friends or Tom's family. I didn't read any of them. I opened my email instead. There was a message from Johns Hopkins, time-stamped at 6:47 a.m. Ms. Chen, we still have not received the required affidavit. Please be advised that our deadline is 5 p.m. Eastern Time today. If we do not receive the document by this time, we will be forced to revoke Lily Chen's residency acceptance. If there are complications preventing you from providing this affidavit, please contact our legal department immediately to discuss. It was 9:30 a.m., 7.5 hours until the deadline. I checked my messages. The most recent one from Lily, sent at 4 a.m., read, "I'm not signing anything. You're trying to extort me. I've contacted a lawyer, and he says what you're doing is illegal. If you don't sign that affidavit by 5 p.m., I'm suing you for intentional interference with a business relationship. You'll lose everything." I felt surprisingly calm. I replied to the Johns Hopkins email. I am unable to sign the affidavit as requested because the statement regarding no outstanding debts would be factually inaccurate. I am currently responsible for $51,320 in student loans and credit card debt that were taken out specifically for Lily Chen's medical education. I have documentation of all expenses if your legal department requires verification. I apologize for any inconvenience this causes. I hit send. Then I turned off my phone, unplugged my laptop, and went to sleep. If you are watching this and you have ever had to choose between your own truth and someone else's dream, between your integrity and your family's approval, I want you to know that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is survival. Hit that like button if you have ever been threatened for setting a boundary. And in the comments, I want to know, what did it cost you to finally say no? I woke up at 4 p.m. to someone pounding on my apartment door. I knew before I opened it that it would be my mother. She stood in the hallway, her face flushed, her hair disheveled. She was wearing expensive clothes, a cashmere sweater and tailored pants, but she looked unhinged. Behind her stood Tom, uncomfortable and quiet. "How could you?" my mother said, her voice shaking. "How could you do this to your own sister?" I stepped back, letting them into my tiny apartment. My mother looked around at the space, like she was seeing it for the first time, taking in the mattress on the floor, the broken appliances, the bare walls. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" she continued. "Lily just got a call from Johns Hopkins. They're revoking her acceptance. 7 years of work, gone, because you couldn't sign one simple piece of paper." "It wasn't a simple piece of paper," I said quietly. "It was a legal document asking me to confirm something that isn't true." "Oh, stop it with this legal nonsense!" My mother waved her hand dismissively. "You're hiding behind technicalities because you're jealous. You've always been jealous of Lily." "I'm not jealous. I'm tired." "Tired?" My mother's voice rose. "You're tired?" Lily worked herself to exhaustion for 7 years to become a doctor. She studied harder than anyone. She earned that residency. And you destroyed it because you're tired? "I paid for it," I said. The words came out flat, factual. I paid for 7 years of her education, $333,000. While living in this apartment, working 3 jobs, giving up everything. And at her graduation, she thanked you. She erased me completely from her success story. Then she asked me to sign a legal document lying about her financial situation. And when I asked her to at least acknowledge what I'd done for her, she threatened to sue me. My mother stared at me. She offered to pay you back eventually. After her residency, when she's making real money, she was going to help you. No, she wasn't. She explicitly told me the debts are legally mine, not hers, and she has no obligation to repay them. Tom cleared his throat. Maya, I think there's been a misunderstanding here. Family dynamics are complicated, and maybe everyone just needs to sit down and talk this through calmly. I looked at him. This man who had married my mother 2 years ago, and suddenly had opinions about our family. Tom, with respect, you don't know anything about our family dynamics. You've been here for 2 years. I've been supporting Lily for 7. My mother's eyes were blazing. You think you're some kind of hero, don't you? Some martyr who sacrificed everything. Well, let me tell you something, Maya. Nobody asked you to work 3 jobs. Nobody asked you to live in this dump. You made those choices because you wanted to control Lily. You wanted her to owe you something. The words hit me like a physical blow. I wanted to control her? Yes. You wanted power over her. You wanted to be able to hold this over her head forever. Look what I did for you. Look how much I gave up. Well, congratulations. You finally got what you wanted. You ruined her life, and now you get to feel superior about it. I felt something inside me go very quiet and very cold. Get out of my apartment. Maya, Tom started. Get out. I walked to the door and opened it. Both of you, leave. My mother didn't move. If you don't fix this, if you don't call Johns Hopkins right now and sign that affidavit, you are no longer my daughter. Do you understand me? You will be dead to me. I looked at her, this woman who had raised me, who I had spent my entire life trying to please. I saw her clearly for the first time, not as my mother, but as a person who had assigned roles to her daughters from birth. Lily was the star, the success, the validation of all her sacrifices. I was the support staff, the one who made it possible, the one who was supposed to disappear into the background and be grateful for the opportunity to serve. I understand, I said. Now get out. My mother left, Tom following behind her, and I closed the door on 28 years of trying to be enough for her. I didn't cry. I sat on my mattress and felt a strange sense of lightness, like I had been carrying something impossibly heavy for so long that I had forgotten what it felt like to stand up straight. My phone was still off. I left it that way. That evening, I received an email from Johns Hopkins. The subject line was residency position, updated status. I opened it with steady hands. Dear Ms. Chen, thank you for your prompt response regarding the affidavit for Lily Chen. Given the information you provided about outstanding financial obligations related to Ms. Chen's education, we are required to conduct a formal review of her application materials. During this review period, Ms. Chen's residency acceptance is temporarily suspended. We will contact both you and Ms. Chen directly within the next 10 business days to gather additional information and documentation. We appreciate your honesty in this matter. Regards, Johns Hopkins Hospital Legal Department. Suspended. Not revoked. Suspended pending review. I read the email 3 times. They weren't immediately canceling her acceptance. They were investigating, which meant they were taking my claim seriously, which meant Lily would have to explain why she had claimed no debts while her sister was paying off hundreds of thousands of dollars for her education. A new email arrived 10 minutes later, this one from Rebecca Torres. Maya, I hope you're doing okay. I wanted to give you a heads up that I received a call from an attorney representing Lily Chen. He's threatening to sue you for tortious interference. I told him that you have every right to refuse to sign a legal document you believe contains false statements, and that if he proceeds with litigation, we'll be filing a countersuit for unjust enrichment and breach of implied contract. That seemed to slow him down. But be prepared for this to get ugly. They're going to try to paint you as vindictive and unreasonable. Don't engage directly with Lily or your mother. All communication should go through me from this point forward. And Maya, I know this is hard, But you did the right thing. Document everything, save everything, and let me handle the legal side. You focus on taking care of yourself. I closed my laptop and sat in the silence of my apartment. For the first time in 7 years, I had nothing to do. No shifts to get ready for. No payments to stress about. No one asking me for money. Just silence. And in that silence, I started to remember who I had been before I became Lily's ATM. I had been a person with ambitions, with friends, with hobbies. I had liked painting, had been decent at it. I had liked hiking on weekends. I had liked trying new restaurants and going to movies and reading books that weren't related to maximizing income or managing debt. I had been Maya, not just Lily's sister, and I wanted to find her again. The next 3 months were brutal. Lily did sue me. Her lawyer filed a complaint claiming intentional interference with contractual relations, alleging that I had maliciously sabotaged her career opportunity. The dollar amount they requested in damages was absurd, nearly $500,000, claiming lost future earnings from the derailed residency. Rebecca filed our countersuit the same day. Unjust enrichment for $333 plus interest. Breach of implied contract. We had documentation for every claim. 7 years of bank statements, receipts, emails, text messages, all of it meticulously organized in the folders I had been maintaining since the beginning. The discovery process was vicious. Lily's lawyer subpoenaed my financial records, trying to prove I had plenty of money and was just withholding the signature out of spite. What they found instead was documentation of my poverty. 7 years of living on $403 per month after debt payments. 7 years of no vacations, no luxuries, no savings. My lawyer sent them a particularly damning exhibit, a side-by-side comparison of my living expenses versus Lily's during her medical school years. While I was living in a studio apartment with broken appliances, Lily had been living in a 2-bedroom apartment near campus with granite countertops and a gym membership. While I was buying clothes from thrift stores, Lily's Instagram showed designer outfits and weekend trips to wine country. The evidence was stark and undeniable. Lily's lawyer tried to argue that I had chosen to live poorly, that I could have made different decisions. Rebecca destroyed that argument in a 30-page brief that detailed exactly how much money I had earned versus how much I had paid toward Lily's expenses. There was no extra money. There were no choices. There was only survival. The Johns Hopkins review concluded after 6 weeks. They sent me a formal letter. After thorough investigation, we have determined that your statements regarding financial obligations related to Lily Chen's education are accurate and verifiable. We appreciate your integrity in bringing this matter to our attention. However, we have also determined that the nature of these obligations does not, in itself, constitute grounds for revoking Ms. Chen's residency acceptance, as the debts are legally held in your name rather than hers. We have required Ms. Maya Chen to provide additional documentation regarding her financial status going forward, and she has satisfied those requirements. Her residency acceptance has been reinstated with a delayed start date to accommodate the review period. Lily had won. She was getting her residency after all. I felt surprisingly little about it. Not anger, not disappointment. Just a kind of distant observation. Of course, the system had sided with her. She had done everything legally correct. The debts were in my name. She had never signed anything promising to repay me. From a legal standpoint, she was clean. But the lawsuit was still active, and discovery had revealed something Rebecca had been hoping for. In the trove of text messages and emails, there were dozens of messages from Lily explicitly asking for money for specific educational expenses, and me confirming I would provide it. And critically, in several messages from the early years, Lily had written things like, "I'll pay you back after I'm making doctor money, I promise," and "I can't wait to be successful so I can take care of you the way you've taken care of me." Those messages changed everything. They established that Lily had, at least initially, understood the financial support as something she would repay. That created an implied contract. Rebecca filed an amended complaint, highlighting these messages and arguing that Lily had made promises of repayment that she was now refusing to honor. The case was getting media attention. A local news outlet picked it up, running a story with the headline, "Sister Sues Sister Over Medical School Debt, Family Obligation or Legal Responsibility." The comments section was vicious, split almost perfectly down the middle. Half the people said I was a monster trying to destroy my sister's career. Half said Lily was an entitled brat who needed to pay her debts. My mother gave an interview, painting me as jealous and vindictive. Lily gave an interview, crying on camera about how I had always resented her success. I gave no interviews. Rebecca advised me to stay silent, to let the evidence speak for itself. But privately, the attention was destroying me. I had to quit my restaurant job because customers recognized me and either praised me or berated me. The warehouse manager position was night shifts with minimal human contact, so I kept that one. But I was living under a microscope, every choice analyzed and judged by strangers. And then something unexpected happened. If you have ever been called the villain for refusing to disappear, for insisting that your truth matters, even when it's inconvenient for everyone else, I need you to know that history is full of people who were hated in their time and vindicated later. Hit that like button if you have ever stood alone against everyone you loved. And in the comments, tell me, did you survive it? I received an email from someone named Catherine Wu. The subject line said, "I was you 10 years ago." I almost deleted it, assuming it was another stranger with opinions, but something made me open it. "Dear Maya, my name is Catherine Wu. I'm an attorney in Seattle. 10 years ago, my younger brother convinced me to co-sign his student loans for law school. I paid them for 6 years while he built his career. When I asked him to start contributing to the payments, he told me they were my legal responsibility and he owed me nothing. I sued him. I lost. The judge said that co-signing a loan was a choice I made, and there was no legal obligation for my brother to reimburse me. I paid off those loans last year, $87,000 total. My brother and I haven't spoken in 8 years. I'm writing to you because I saw your story in the news, and I want you to know something important. You're not going to win this lawsuit. I've read the details, and your case is actually stronger than mine was because you have those text messages suggesting repayment. But even with that, the legal system doesn't handle family debt well. Judges don't like getting involved in family disputes over money. You'll probably get a settlement, maybe 20 or 30 cents on the dollar. And it will cost you thousands in legal fees to get there. But here's what I want you to know. Winning the lawsuit doesn't matter. What matters is that you drew a line. You said no. You refused to disappear. And that is going to change your life in ways you can't imagine yet. After I lost my case, I was devastated. My family hated me. My brother's wife sent me messages calling me evil. My parents stopped speaking to me. I thought I had destroyed my life over money. But then something strange happened. Without the weight of those loan payments, without the constant stress of managing my brother's expectations, I started building my own life. I went back to school. I changed careers. I met my wife. I bought a house. I became someone. And my brother, he's still the same person he was 10 years ago. Entitled, selfish, convinced the world owes him something. His marriage fell apart. His career stalled because he never learned to work hard. Everything had always been handed to him. He's not happy, and no amount of my money would have changed that. You did the right thing, Maya. Not because you'll win the lawsuit, but because you refused to keep feeding a system that was destroying you. Stay strong, Catherine. I read the email 5 times. Then, I saved it in a folder I created called Lifelines. The lawsuit dragged on for another 4 months. Rebecca was right that it would be expensive. My legal fees were mounting into the tens of thousands. But Rebecca had taken my case partially on contingency, meaning she only got paid in full if we won or settled. She believed in it. The mediation happened in November, in a gray conference room in a downtown office building. Lily was there with her lawyer. I was there with Rebecca. A professional mediator, a woman in her 60s with kind eyes, guided the conversation. Lily looked different, thinner, older. She wouldn't look at me. Her lawyer presented their settlement offer. They would acknowledge that family dynamics had been complicated. They would agree to pay me $40,000 over 10 years, starting after Lily's residency. In exchange, I would drop the lawsuit and agree never to discuss the case publicly. Rebecca presented our counteroffer: full acknowledgement of the $333,000 debt, repayment of $150,000 over 15 years, public statement from Lily acknowledging my financial support. The mediator let both sides talk for hours, trying to find middle ground. At one point, she asked me directly, "Maya, what would make you feel like this was resolved fairly?" I thought about it for a long time. "I don't need all the money back," I said finally. "I'm not trying to destroy her. I just need her to admit that I did this for her, that it was real, that I existed in her success story." The mediator turned to Lily. "Can you do that?" Lily was crying. "I never meant to hurt her. I didn't think it was fair that she got to decide my future, that she held all the power because she paid for everything." "I held the power?" I said quietly. "Lily, I worked 3 jobs for 7 years. I lived in poverty. I gave up everything. You held the power. You got to be the successful one while I paid for it." "You chose that," Lily said, and her voice was bitter. "Nobody forced you. You wanted to be the hero. I chose it because Mom told me it was my duty as the older sister, because you were the special one, the gifted one, the one who was going to make something of herself. And I believed it. I believed that your dreams were more important than mine." Lily looked at me then, really looked at me. "Did you ever think that maybe I didn't want that pressure? That maybe I didn't want to be the golden child? Mom turned us against each other, Maya. She made you the martyr and me the star, and neither of us ever had a choice." I felt something crack in my chest. "But you did have a choice, Lily. At your graduation, you could have thanked me. You could have acknowledged what I did. Instead, you thanked Mom, who contributed nothing, and you looked me in the eye while you did it. That was a choice." The mediator let the silence sit for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm going to recommend something unconventional. I think you two need to talk to each other without your lawyers present. Not about the money, about the relationship, because the money is just a symptom of something much deeper." We did. In a smaller conference room, just the two of us, we talked for 2 hours. Lily told me about growing up in my shadow, about how Mom had always compared her to me, about how she had felt like she could never be good enough. I told her about the loneliness of the last 7 years, about watching her live the life I had wanted while I worked overnight shifts to pay for it. We didn't fix anything, but we saw each other, maybe for the first time. The settlement we reached was this: Lily would acknowledge in writing that I had provided $333,000 in financial support for her education. She would repay $100,000 over 20 years, interest-free, starting 2 years after her residency ended. She would write me a letter of apology, private, not for the lawyers or the court. And we would both agree to try family therapy, not to repair the relationship necessarily, but to understand how we got here. It wasn't justice, it wasn't vindication, but it was something. Lily's letter arrived 3 weeks after the settlement was signed. I opened it alone in my apartment. Now a better apartment, because I had finally been able to move without 3 jobs worth of debt payments draining me. "Maya, I don't know if sorry is enough for what I've put you through. I've spent the last 6 months in therapy, trying to understand how I became someone who could erase you from my graduation speech, how I could ask you for so much and then refuse to acknowledge it. My therapist says I learned to dissociate from the guilt because it was too overwhelming to carry. Every time I saw you tired or stressed or struggling, I felt responsible, and that feeling was unbearable. So I told myself a different story. I told myself you were choosing to work hard because you wanted to, that you liked being the responsible one, that it wasn't my fault. I lied to myself so convincingly that I started to believe it. And then, at graduation, with Mom there, with all her expectations and her pride in me, I couldn't break the narrative she had built. In her story, she was the one who sacrificed for us, and I was too weak to contradict her. even though I knew it was wrong. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve that, but I want you to know that I see you now. I see what you gave up. I see the 7 years of your life that you spent building my future, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that sacrifice, starting with actually being your sister instead of your burden. Love, Lily. I folded the letter carefully and put it in the Lifelines folder with Catherine's email. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I went for a walk. Not to get somewhere, not because I had a shift to get to, just to walk. To feel the sun on my face and the autumn air in my lungs and the simple freedom of having nowhere I needed to be. I was 35 years old, and I was just beginning to live my own life. The family therapy sessions were awkward and painful, and sometimes productive. My mother came to 3 of them before she stopped. She couldn't accept that her favoritism had damaged both of her daughters. She couldn't hear that treating Lily like a star and me like support staff had poisoned our relationship from childhood. In the last session she attended, the therapist asked her directly, "Why do you think Maya's dreams were less important than Lily's?" My mother had looked genuinely confused. Because Lily was going to be a doctor. Maya was just Maya? Just Maya. The therapist had written that phrase on her notepad, underlined it twice, and that had been the end of my mother's participation. But Lily kept coming. And slowly, session by session, we started to build something that wasn't the relationship we had before, but maybe could be something new. She told me about the pressure of medical school, about the terror she felt that if she failed, she would have wasted my sacrifice, about how that fear had paralyzed her sometimes, made her resent me even as she needed me. I told her about the loneliness, about feeling invisible in my own family, about the night I stood in my mother's kitchen and realized that my worth to them was measured in $25 increments. We cried. We got angry. We said things that couldn't be unsaid. But we kept showing up. And that was something. If you are listening to this and you have ever had to choose between being right and being in relationship, between justice and peace, I want you to know that both choices are valid. Sometimes you fight, sometimes you settle, sometimes you walk away entirely. And all of those are okay. Hit that like button if you have ever had to rebuild yourself after setting a boundary. And subscribe to hear more stories about choosing yourself, even when it costs everything. Johns Hopkins offered Lily her delayed residency start date in January. She accepted. 2 weeks before she left for Baltimore, she called me. "Can I take you to dinner?" she asked. My treat. Actually, my treat, not Mom's credit card. We met at a mid-range Italian restaurant, the kind of place I hadn't been able to afford in years. Lily ordered wine, I ordered water, old habits. "I want to show you something," Lily said, pulling out her phone. She opened her banking app and turned it toward me. There was an account labeled Maya Fund with a balance of $3,147. "I've been putting money in there every month since the settlement," she said. "Once I start residency, I'll be making about $60,000 a year. It's not much, but I'm going to put 10% of every paycheck into this account. For you. To start paying back what I owe you, ahead of the settlement schedule." I stared at the number. "Lily, the settlement doesn't require you to start payments for 2 years. "I know, but I want to. I need to." She closed the app and looked at me directly. "I need to prove to you, and to myself, that I'm not the person I was at graduation, that I can be better." I felt tears stinging my eyes. "Thank you." We ate pasta and talked about small things. Her nervousness about residency, my plans to maybe take an art class at the community college, the new apartment I had rented, bigger than a studio, with working appliances and windows that let in real light. At the end of the meal, Lily paid the check, and we stood outside in the parking lot, neither of us quite ready to leave. "Maya," Lily said, "I know you're probably going to say no, but I'm going to ask anyway. At the end of my residency, when I become an attending physician, there's going to be a ceremony, a formal recognition, and they let residents bring one person to speak on their behalf, someone who was instrumental in their journey. I want it to be you." I looked at my little sister, this woman who had cost me so much and who was trying, finally, to make it right. Ask me again in 4 years, I said, when you've made those payments you promised. Lily smiled, and it was sad, but hopeful. Deal. 1 year after the settlement, I was offered a job as the financial director for a nonprofit organization that helped first-generation college students navigate education funding. The salary was $60,000 per year, with benefits and reasonable hours. I took it. The work was meaningful in a way my previous jobs had never been. I helped students avoid the mistakes I had made. I taught them about documentation, about boundaries, about the difference between supporting someone and sacrificing yourself. I told them that family could ask for help, but asking for everything was not love. It was exploitation. I became good at it, really good. 6 months into the job, I developed a workshop called Family Finance, Setting Healthy Boundaries, that became required programming for all incoming first-generation students. The director of the nonprofit called me into her office one afternoon. Her name was Patricia, and she was in her 60s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Maya, I want to talk to you about your future here. I sat down, nervous. The board has been impressed with your work. More than impressed, we're creating a new position, Regional Director of Family Financial Education. It would mean travel, speaking engagements, training other counselors, and a significant raise, $85,000 per year. I stared at her. $85,000. More money than I had ever made. More money than I had ever imagined making. The position is yours if you want it, Patricia said. But I need to know you're ready for it. This work, the boundary setting, the family dynamics, it requires someone who has lived it and healed from it. Someone who can talk about the hard things without falling apart. Are you there yet? I thought about the past year. The therapy. The small payments from Lily that appeared in my account like clockwork. The distance from my mother that had become less painful and more peaceful. The art classes I had started taking. The hiking group I had joined. The version of myself I was building, slowly, from the pieces that were left after 7 years of erasure. Yes, I said. I'm ready. 2 years into my new job, my mother reached out. Not through a phone call or a dramatic confrontation. Through an email, short and stilted. Maya, I would like to talk with you when you have time. No pressure, just a conversation. Mom. I didn't respond immediately. I sat with it for a week, testing my reaction. Did I want to talk to her? Did I need to? Rebecca, who had become something like a friend after the lawsuit, told me, "You don't owe her a conversation, but if you want one, go in with clear boundaries and realistic expectations. She's probably not going to give you the apology you deserve." I met my mother at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She looked older, smaller somehow. She ordered tea. I ordered nothing. "Thank you for coming," she said. Her voice was quiet, uncertain in a way I had never heard before. "I've been in therapy. Tom insisted on it after everything that happened. He said I needed to understand what I did to you and Lily." I waited. "The therapist asked me to write letters to both of you. Letters explaining my behavior. I'm not supposed to send them unless you want to read them, but I wrote them. And writing mine to you, Maya, I had to confront some things I didn't want to see." She pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn like she had carried it for a while. "Can I read you part of it?" I nodded. She unfolded the paper with shaking hands. "I made you invisible because I was terrified of you. You were always so capable, so strong, so much like your father. And when he died, I couldn't look at you without seeing him, without remembering what I lost. Lily was easier. She was young enough that she didn't remember him. She was mine in a way you never could be. So I gave her everything, my attention, my pride, my resources, because loving her didn't hurt the way loving you did. And I convinced myself that you didn't need me because you were strong, that you could handle anything, that ignoring you was somehow fair because you were more capable than I was. I turned you into a parent when you were 12 years old, and I never let you be a child again. And then, when you became an adult, I kept taking from you because that was the role I had assigned you, and I didn't know how to see you any other way. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. But I needed you to know that I see what I did, and I'm sorry." She folded the paper and set it on the table between us. I looked at it, this apology I had wanted for so long, and I felt almost nothing. Not anger, not relief, just a kind of distant sadness for the relationship we could have had if she had been different. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "I don't know if we can repair this. I don't know if I want to try, but I appreciate the honesty." My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. "That's fair. That's more than fair." We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then I stood up. "I need to go. I have a presentation to prepare for work." "Maya," my mother said as I turned to leave, "I'm proud of you. I know I never said it, but I am. You built a life from nothing. You became someone despite everything I did to hold you back. And I'm so, so proud." I felt something crack inside me, just a little. "Thank you," I said. And then I left. 4 years after the settlement, Lily completed her residency. She had made every single payment she had promised, 10% of her salary deposited like clockwork into the Maya fund. The balance was now over $30,000. She called me the week before her ceremony. "Maya, I'm going to ask you again. Will you speak at my recognition ceremony? Will you stand up in front of everyone and let me finally tell them the truth about who made my career possible?" I thought about it for a long time. "What would you want me to say?" "Whatever you want. Tell them about the 3 jobs. Tell them about the 7 years. Tell them what it cost you. Tell them the truth." "Even if it makes you look bad?" "Especially if it makes me look bad. I need people to know, Maya. I need them to understand that I didn't do this alone, that I did it on your back, and that I'm spending the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that." I felt something shift, the last piece of the old hurt finally settling into place. "Okay," I said. "I'll speak." The ceremony was held at Johns Hopkins Hospital, in a beautiful auditorium filled with doctors and administrators and other residents. Lily's name was called, and she walked to the stage in her white coat, looking professional and confident and nervous all at once. The ceremony director read her accomplishments, her publications, her patient care scores. Then he said, "Dr. Chen has asked her sister, Maya Chen, to say a few words on her behalf." I walked to the podium. My hands were steady. I looked out at the audience, all these successful medical professionals, and I told them the truth. "My name is Maya Chen. For 7 years, I worked 3 jobs to pay for my sister's education. I paid $333,000 in tuition, living expenses, and supplies. I lived in poverty. I gave up relationships, opportunities, my health, and my own dreams. And at my sister's graduation from medical school, she thanked our mother for her success and didn't mention me at all. I thought that was the end of our story, that she would take what I gave her and disappear into her career, and I would be left with the debt and the bitterness and nothing else. But I was wrong, because after I set a boundary, after I said no to being erased, something unexpected happened. My sister woke up. She saw what she had taken, and she started, slowly and imperfectly, to make it right. She didn't do it because a court ordered her to. She did it because she chose to become someone different than the person she was on graduation day. This ceremony today is not just about celebrating Dr. Lily Chen's completion of her residency. It's about celebrating the fact that people can change, that acknowledging harm and making amends is possible, that families can break and maybe, if everyone is willing to do the work, find their way to something new. I'm proud of my sister, not just for becoming a doctor, but for having the courage to admit she needed help to get here, and for honoring that help instead of hiding it. That takes a different kind of strength than medical school ever taught her. Thank you. The applause was thunderous. I saw people crying. I saw Lily crying, standing at the side of the stage, her hand over her mouth, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. After the ceremony, Lily found me in the reception hall. She handed me an envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it." Inside was a check for $100,000, the full settlement amount, paid in one sum instead of spread over 20 years. "Lily, you don't have to." "I signed my attending physician contract yesterday," she said. "Salary is $240,000 per year. I can afford this now, and I want to. I want this debt gone so we can start fresh. So when we talk, you're not wondering if I'm going to make my payment, so I can just be your sister." I stared at the check, this piece of paper that represented the end of a decade-long nightmare. "Thank you," I said. And then, for the first time in years, I hugged her. She hugged me back, and we stood there in the middle of the reception hall, two sisters who had nearly destroyed each other and had somehow found their way back. 6 months later, I was offered a position as the national director for my nonprofit organization. The salary was $120,000 per year, with the opportunity to shape family financial education policy across the country. I accepted. I moved to a bigger city, to a real apartment with a second bedroom that I turned into an art studio. I started dating someone, a kind man named James, who worked as a teacher and understood about complicated families and second chances. I painted. I hiked. I traveled. I became someone. And once a month, I had dinner with Lily, who was thriving in her career and building her own life and trying still to be the person who deserved the sacrifice I had made. We talked about our mother sometimes, about whether to maintain the careful distance or try to rebuild. We hadn't decided yet. Maybe we never would. But that was okay, because the most important thing I had learned was this: you can set boundaries and still love someone. You can demand respect and still offer grace. You can walk away from a relationship that's harming you and leave the door open for something different in the future. And most importantly, you can be the person who was overlooked, who was used, who was erased from someone else's story. And you can still write your own story. You can still become someone. You can still find your sky. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you are currently in a situation where someone is taking advantage of your generosity, where your sacrifices are being treated as obligations instead of gifts, I want you to know that you have the right to stop. You have the right to say no. You have the right to protect your own future, even if it costs you relationships. Please hit that like button if this story resonated with you. And make sure to subscribe so we can keep sharing stories about resilience, boundaries, and the courage it takes to choose yourself. In the comments below, tell me, have you ever had to set a boundary that cost you a relationship? How did you survive it? I'll be reading your stories, and I want you to know, you are not alone. This is Maya Chen, Regional Director of Family Financial Education, artist, hiker, sister, and survivor. And I am finally free.